This is Dr. B, host of The Dr. B Show and founder of Borja Consulting Group, a company that helps businesses grow through strategy, branding, and marketing. Today's guest is Daniel Tercey, an expert at Directed IRA who helps investors use self-directed retirement accounts to build long-term wealth. In this episode, he shares how you can invest your IRA in real estate, private lending, and other alternative assets while maximizing tax advantages. Let's jump into the conversation with Daniel Tercey.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to How to Buy Real Estate with an IRA. I am Dr. B. I'm Dr. Jairo Borja. As you guys, for those who don't know me, I am the president and CEO of Borja Consulting Group, LLC, where I am in the training development space when it comes to entrepreneurship training, and I'm also a real estate investor, investing in over 500 units across 4 deals. So you guys all know me here. So I am going to introduce our speaker. I'm going to jump right into it. In the interest of time, I'm very respectful of everyone's time today. This afternoon, this hot afternoon on a summer day in 2026. So a little bit about Daniel Tercey. He's an experienced sales manager with a demonstrated history of working in marketing and advertising, skilled in performance-based marketing, customer service sales, new biz dev, opportunities, strong sales professional, the bachelor's of business administration, like me, focus in marketing from California State University, Chico. He also has a lot of experience working with like Loop One prior to working with Directed Trust and Bitcoin and IRA, et cetera, right? So with that being said, he's going to teach us how to buy real estate with IRA. Daniel, the floor is yours, my brother. And I say this one today, you're muted.
Goodness, I was focused more on sharing and less on unmuting myself. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I've had quite a colorful career. Really, what it all kind of boils down to is focusing on speaking and presenting and educating, and that's what I'm here for you guys to do, because I'm about to show you something that majority of the population doesn't know. In fact, there's about $49 trillion tied up in retirement funds right now, and it's either sitting on the sidelines in IRAs or invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, because that's kind of what we were brainwashed to thinking. So I came over to Directed IRA after working with crypto IRAs, so people using their money to invest in cryptocurrency, to educate and help real estate investors, private money lenders, private equity companies, and syndicators all help unlock some of that funding and really unlock the potential investors' funding. A lot of people think that this is all locked up. So just for the moving forward, make sure you add in any of your questions in the chat. Dr. Jairo will be able to take care of it. I can also answer them as well, especially if they are IRA focused. That's what I'm here for. And to get started, the boring stuff is I'm not here for any legal, tax, or investment advice. I'm here purely just for education. And what I'm really going to be going over is teaching you about IRAs. And I promise it will be fun. It won't be boring tax speak. And the reason why I know that is because the second part of this will also be examples of what you can invest in and how it looks in your IRA. And then finally, obviously, it'll be how to set one of these darn things up. So for anybody that's in the chat right now, how many of you guys actually have a retirement account? You can put a number 1 if you have a retirement account. You can put a number 2 if you do not have a retirement account. You can throw that into the chat. This is also how I make sure you guys are listening to me. All right.
A lot of ones.
Yeah. How many of those are with current employers? Now, I don't know how many of you are self-employed, but how many of those are like 401ks with current employers? 1 if yes, 2 if no. Current employer. There's Andy. Okay. So see, these are all with current employers. So you probably feel like your money looks like that. It's locked up. You can't do anything. It's basically like a glorified savings account. So what we've really been able to do since the 70s is actually use our retirement accounts to invest in anything. And the IRS says, look, you can do this. And the wealthy went, wow, you can do this? We're going to start using our money for alternative assets. Now, I say almost anything because there are two things the IRS doesn't allow you to invest in. One is collectibles, so you can finally get rid of your Pokemon cards, or I guess kids are into Labubu's now, so you can tell your kids those are not investments, tax-free investments. Those are they're going to have to pay taxes when they sell them. And then you have life insurance contracts. For those of you who don't know the Murdoch case trials, if you put a life insurance contract inside your IRA, you are setting yourself up for a true crime documentary on Netflix, okay? If you haven't seen this one, it's pretty crazy, but it is on Netflix. You don't want to end up like this guy. One, you don't want to be a murderer. But two, you definitely don't want to murder your IRA with the IRS, okay? So those are two things you don't want to do. But what can you hold? Almost anything else, right? So I said we've been brainwashed into thinking we can only invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Well, the reason why we've been brainwashed is because Fidelity, Schwab, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they all have trillions of dollars. They're all big banks. In fact, we've learned they're too big to fail. So they flood the market saying that you can only invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Well, why would they say that? Because that's how they make money. Okay. If my only way of making money is to sell stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, I don't want anybody investing in anything else because I want to make as much money as possible. That's what Fidelity and Schwab do. Now, you can actually go to some of these companies and you can say, I want to invest in these things, and they'll tell you you cannot do it. That's not because they're stupid. It's because more that they're ignorant. They just don't understand this because that's all they've ever been taught too. But you come over to a company like Directed IRA, who, by the way, is identical to Fidelity and Schwab. The only difference is we play by the IRS rules. We say if the IRS says you can hold it in, if the IRS says you can custody it, we are the custodian, just like Fidelity and Schwab, we will allow it. What does that entail? Everything you see on here. I'm going to focus on real estate and private money lending and syndications due to the fact that that's probably what we're all here for, but we're all also entrepreneurial in our own mindsets. So if you also maybe invest in private companies, or maybe you like cryptocurrency, you can invest in those too. Don't let what we're talking about here prevent you from investing in other things. But for the sake of this, and what we all know and what you should be investing in with your retirement account is the things you know best. Real estate, private money lending, syndications, even tax liens. You can invest in those too. I have a wholesaling example coming up. So really what I like to explain to people is this is like legal insider trading. If you're really good at real estate, you can invest in real estate, right? Whereas if you're really smart at stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, a lot of times you can't invest in, especially if you're with that same company. And so this is really good for investing in the things you know best. We've been told to just throw our money over here. Well, I don't care how advanced you are in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You're not spending every single day looking at these things. For some of you, you're spending it looking at real estate, looking at syndications. Maybe you have a friend that does fix and flips and you want to lend them money. You can private money lend to them. So again, kind of like legal insider trading over here. But for those of you that don't trust me, you'll say, oh, I'm going to check with my Fidelity account. I'm going to go check with who my current custodian is. And I'm going to say, I heard this guy from Directed IRA, and he says I can self-direct. And you're going to talk to this custodian, and they're going to say, sure, you can self-direct. You can self-direct right into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Because self-direction is just a marketing term, okay? Self-direction just means you go out, you find the deal, you tell the custodian what the deal is, and we cut the check, okay? And then we custody whatever that asset is. Remember, everything over here is just an asset. Assets, assets. The custodian has to custody it to keep you tax-free. What self-direction means is you go out, you find the asset, just like you're doing right now with real estate. You identify, you negotiate, you do everything you're already doing, but instead of writing your name, you write Directed Trust Company, FBO, your name, and account type. And that's what self-direction is. So what kind of accounts can you self-direct? Okay. Traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard this. How many people in the chat, you could just write yes for this one, have heard that you make too much money for a Roth IRA? Has anybody heard they make too much money for a Roth IRA? Very common thing I hear. All right. Yeah. So there are people, CPAs, who say that you can't invest, you can't contribute to a Roth. And the reason for that is because the IRS has imposed an income limit. If you make too much money, you cannot contribute to a Roth. But any CPA that's ever told you that, you need to fire. This rule has changed for about 20 years. It's either 10 or 20 years, okay? They're living in the past. So anybody can contribute to any of these accounts. I'll tell you about the loophole in a second. Anybody self-employed, I saw a lot of W-2, or I saw a lot of employer 401ks, but anybody W-2 or self-employed, no employees even. Anyone? So if you are self-employed, you can open up a solo 401k. I'll go into that a little bit, because I don't see too many self-employed people. But they act kind of like a regular current employer 401k, except for you are the sponsor, so your company is the sponsor. And yes, thank you. Yeah. So you are the company and you are the employee. So as most of you might know, as an employee, you can contribute a certain amount of money, and then your employer can match that amount up to a certain amount. And I'll go into those in a second. SEP IRAs are also for self-employed people. And then does anybody have an HSA? You can type a 1 if you have an HSA. These ones you can have with current employers. So I'm wondering if anybody has one. So these ones are specialty plans, and you can self-direct these as well. Okay. And then for anybody that's heard of 529s, I call those glorified savings accounts. Okay. 529s are just a way for you to put money away while your kid is young, and it grows a little bit year over year. For those of you that want to kickstart the education savings account, or have like a supercharged 529, it's called an ESA, an education savings account. And these ones you can invest on your own as well. So you can do these. You can actually do both of them in junction. So 4 questions. I'm going to answer them at the end, just so you guys are aware. So keep writing them in there, and I will get to them. And some of them I'll get to on my slides too. So let's talk about the different kinds of IRAs. You have traditional and Roth. For most of you, you will probably either already have a traditional IRA, have a rollover IRA, which is basically the same as a traditional, or you may have a friend that you want to invest in your deal, and they have an old 401k, more than likely is going to roll over to a traditional. So let's talk about the traditional and the Roth. They both can be contributed to $7,500 if you're below the age of 50, $8,600 if you're above the age of 50. Okay, that's contribution, money out of your back pocket. Anything you grow in the IRA can exceed that amount. Okay, so don't confuse contributions and return on investments. All right, a traditional IRA is pre-tax dollars. So those of you that have those employer 401ks, they probably are traditional, so pre-tax dollars. Some of you may have Roth, but most of you will have pre-tax dollars. So your old 401k, so if you're currently employed with a 401k, you're probably not going to be able to roll it over unless you rolled over a previous employer into your current employer. You can move that out. You have to have separation of employment in order to roll over a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k into a traditional IRA. Okay. Once you do that, you now have a self-directed IRA. You can self-direct it. All right. Now it's pre-tax dollars. It grows tax-free. And then upon distribution, so once you hit 59 and a half, it is taxable. Okay. It is taxable. So if you contribute $5,000 to a traditional IRA, you grow it to $1 million, you pay taxes on that $995,000. You actually pay taxes on all of the $1 million. upon retirement age, okay, which is 59 and a half. With a Roth IRA, same contribution limits, 7,500 to 8,600. You contribute post-tax dollars, okay? So you contribute to it after you've paid taxes. Then it sits in the IRA and grows tax-free. And then once you hit retirement age, 59 and a half, you do not pay taxes on it. So in a Roth, if you put $5,000 in and you grow it to $1 million, you don't pay taxes on $995,000. You only pay taxes on the original contribution of $5,000. So you guys will learn as I go through these slides that we at Directed IRA, I refer to us as the Church of Latter-day Roth, because all we preach is Roth for that exact reason I gave you guys, okay? A $5,000 contribution, that even grows to $100,000. You don't pay taxes on all of the growth. You only pay taxes on that original 5K. In a traditional IRA, you pay taxes on everything. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? We good on traditional and Roth IRAs? Yes, okay. So let's go into employer plans, all right? I'm not gonna stick on these too much because I didn't see any self-employed people, okay? But I just wanna talk about them really fast. If you ever become self-employed, and we have one person who does have a solo 401k, you can actually contribute $72,000 to these plans. Now there's a little stipulation, but I'll get to it in a second. A SEP IRA is for self-employed people who have employees, basically. There's really, in my opinion, no other reason to have a SEP IRA because it's basically just a glorified traditional IRA. You can put more money into it, but it's based on the amount of money you put on your ordinary income. A solo 401k, again, if you have 0 employees, you can do $24,500 as the employee. So if you only make $24,500 in 1 year, you can contribute all of it to your solo 401k. If you did that in a SEP, you could only contribute 25% of that, okay? And then as the employer, you can contribute the rest of that, the delta, if you will, of up to $72,000. And the way that you do that is by contributing 25% of your earned income. So as an example, and I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna stay on this too much longer. As an example, if you make $100,000 in a SEP, you can only do 25% of that, 25,000. And in a solo, you could do 24,500 plus the 25% of your earned income, which would be 25,000, bringing you to a grand total of $49,500. So solo 401ks are really strong. They also allow you to be exempt from UDFI. I'm not going to get into that. It's way more advanced, but solo 401ks are great for that. Health savings account and ESAs. Now, I didn't see anybody had a health savings account, but if you ever set one up, you can self-direct them. You can contribute $4,400 as single, $8,750 as dependent, so family plan. So if you have one dependent on your HSA, you can contribute the $8,750. As far as the HSAs go, they are pre-tax going in and they are post-tax coming out. So if you want to invest with an HSA, you're putting pre-tax dollars in, you invest it, grow it tax-free, and then when you have a qualified expense, which is a medical expense, you can take that out tax-free to pay for that qualified expense. Same thing with that, excuse me. Same thing with an ESA, but you can only put in 2,000. I'll explain to you how you can use a small account to invest in large things. And then you can pay for any qualified expense there, which is any sort of education expense, whether it be private education, college, books. You can use it to pay for your internet, right? So you can do lots of things with a Coverdell Education Savings Account. Now, I like to stop here, see if anybody has any questions, and we do have some in the chat. So,
you want me to read them to you, or?
No, I can see them right here. Can we open one if we have an LLC? I have a W-2, but also self-employed. Yeah, you can 100% do that. I always give the example of like Uber. An Uber driver is self-employed. They could have a solo 401k, no problem. Let's see. Can I use a self-directed IRA to invest in venture capital funds, angel investments, or directly into startups? If so, what rules and compliance issues to be aware of? So basically what you're just saying is, can I invest in Apple? Apple's a publicly traded company, so that's the difference there. But the IRS says you can invest in all of those things you just listed. And to them, it's no different than like investing in Apple stock. What rules or compliance issues should you be aware of? It's going to be whatever the contracts say. It's self-direction, so you are going to have to kind of understand and do your own due diligence on those things. We don't assist you with that. We're a passive custodian. Okay, that's why we partner with people like yourself. And we say, hey, we'll do the education. You do the due diligence with your clients and your networks, and you work with them. So there aren't really any rules or compliance issues. I will get into some of the restrictions literally in my next slide, and I'll talk about those in a second. So how do you see self-directed IRAs complementing a traditional investment portfolio managed by an RIA? So financial advisors typically don't get paid on these types of investments. They're alternative investments. And it's not necessarily that they don't want to get paid. It's that usually financial advisors, RIAs, are managing a portfolio that's backed by like a Fidelity or a Schwab or something like that, where they can trade stocks. They're in a brokerage account. As we all know, all of those assets are governed and maintained by the SEC and FTC. So financial advisor, anything goes bad, pretty much is backed up by the government. So it's just, whoops, we made a bad decision. You can choose to go with somebody else, but we pay no repercussions. In an alternative asset setting, you do have to worry about those repercussions because you as the person can take on responsibility for that. So that's why you don't really see RIAs in this space. One, they don't get paid, and two, they have a lot more responsibility in vetting and figuring these things out, which comes into that due diligence part.
Understood.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So let's get into the kind of the compliances and rules. While they don't necessarily speak directly to the capital funds, angel investments, right? These are the overarching rules that you have to apply. And one of them is prohibited transactions. So what is a prohibited transaction? They come in many forms. The most common one is disqualified parties. Now you can see in this, your disqualified parties are all in red. Parents, grandparents, yourself, your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, and their spouses, okay? Now, there's a lot of people you can transact with, and I'll define transaction in a second. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, enemies, whomever you'd like to work with, just as long as it's not these people. Now, don't think you're smarter than the IRS. I mentioned these have been around since the 70s. No offense to anybody in here. You aren't thinking of anything the IRS hasn't already thought of, hasn't already gone to court for, and hasn't already ruled on, okay? Do not interact with these people. And when I say interact or transact, I mean if they have a home that you would like to buy with your IRA, do not buy it. If you have a piece of land that you would like to build your home on, you cannot transact with that. If your son-in-law runs a construction company and you want to have him build the property on the land that your IRA owns, you can't do it. Well, it's an LLC. He's anonymous. He's benefiting, right? How does he get paid? Through that LLC, through that company, okay? So just don't interact with those people. Now, I will tell you on the back end of this that you can work with these people. So you can invest with them. And I'll talk about that on the back end. But you cannot transact. So this applies with literally buying things from them. It also applies with lending services. Okay, so let's say you have a rental property or you have something that you're a part of or that your IRA is a part of, and you lend some sort of service to it where you either make money or you do it for free. That is a disqualified transaction. That is a prohibited transaction. So those are the rules you have to follow. They're very simple, right? Just don't interact with these people and you're fine. This is how those RIAs that we talked about, this is one of their scare tactics, is you could disqualify your account. In my opinion, it's very hard. In fact, I haven't seen a single disqualified account in 4 years and over 20,000 clients. I think actually here specifically, we're at about 28. Um, if you work with these people, you literally don't have to worry about it at all. So that big scare tactic is pretty easily simplified in don't work with these people and you won't ever have to worry about disqualifying your account. Okay, let's talk about some deals. Okay, the first deal that I'm going to talk about is purchasing real estate. So I have an AI generated deed of contract. Okay, please don't put it under a microscope. Don't, this is not actually how it looks. Really, what I want you to notice is it looks very similar to how a deed would look, in that you have a seller and you have a buyer, an owner now. But what is different is who the owner is. So the seller was, John Doe. We'll say Daniel Tercey. Who did the seller sell it to? Well, they sold it to a Roth IRA. Specifically, this says custodian, but you can replace that with directed trust company, FBO, your name in between here, and then the Roth IRA. And that's who the owner is. So we're going to take a look at how buying a piece of property looks. So this is all of my case studies are real clients that we have. The only thing that's changed is the name to just protect the wealthy, So Denise, current client of ours, and she rolled a 401k from a previous employer over to a traditional IRA with directed IRA. Okay. Now, Denise did not want to pay taxes later on in life. So what she did was she converted a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. What does that look like? Well, to the IRS, it looks like you're going from a pre-tax account, qualified account, to a post-tax. So how do you get there? You pay taxes on the traditional funds and get it over to a Roth to make them post-tax. Okay, so you convert from traditional to Roth by paying taxes. There were no taxes paid here, you pay taxes, you get them here. Now, why would somebody do that? Well, in Denise's case, she said, I'm going to make a lot of money on this real estate investment, because she went out and she found the property. It was a fourplex. It wasn't exactly like this, but it was a fourplex, a little apartment complex. And she negotiated the price of $375,000 with an earnest money deposit of $5,000. And she went to go sign all the documents, but instead of signing them herself, she worked with Directed IRA to sign on her behalf, Directed Trust Company, FBO, Denise Roberts Roth IRA. Okay. She knew that paying taxes now was going to pay off later because she was going to make a bunch of money with this. So once she closes with the title company, the same way you normally do it, the deed of record shows Directed Trust Company, FBO, just like I showed you on that AI image. All assets and expenses are paid directly from the Roth IRA. Why? Because the IRA owns it. Denise does not own it. And so when she needs to do some repairs for her ARV, she needs about $20,000. So far, she has about 380 plus another 20, so she's up to about $400,000. Okay. Now, what happens to all the rental income? Well, moving forward, all of it just goes directly into the IRA. Just like when you invest in Apple. When Apple grows, you don't get that growth in your own pocket. It stays in your IRA. Now, you can think of rental income as like dividends. And you can say, when a stock pays my IRA dividends, where does it go? Your IRA. The rental income goes right back into the IRA. And if she needs to pay anybody like a property manager, she would just pay it through her IRA. Okay. So the property makes about $4,200 a month. And over the course of 2 years, she has a net return of about 10.6%. Okay. But the property also went up in value. So the current value about $497,000. She has about $395,000 invested. So she has a total equity after year 2 of $173,000. So if she paid taxes on that money and only paid, let's say, $50,000, then she's already up $172,000 in tax-free money that she will never pay taxes on again. Plus, she's making $4,200 a month. All right, so this is very powerful when you start putting alternative assets inside of your IRA. Big returns can happen. And once Denise turns 59 and a half, all of that rental income is tax-free. So let's say Denise is 59 and a half and she wants to just take out $4,200 a month out of her Roth IRA every month. She can, and she pays no taxes on it. Meanwhile, the property value keeps going up. So her Roth IRA increases in value and she lives off $4,200 tax-free. It's a pretty sweet setup. And when she passes away, her kids can inherit this and pay no taxes on any of that money for 10 years. Okay, so this is generational wealth building. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, well, she had a large account. Okay, how do I turn my little tiny account into a large account? Okay, well, we have wholesalers that do that all the time. And this is just one example of turning a little bit of money into a lot of money. You can get creative and do whatever you want. As long as the IRA is doing the investing, your IRA collects the tax-free dollars. So in this case, Alan used a $500 earnest money deposit and got a $40,000 return on investment put in his daughter's ESA. Okay, so Alan is a wholesaler. So again, remember how I said it's like legal insider trading? Alan knows what the heck he's doing. He knows that for his deals, he usually only needs $500 to $1,000 for an earnest money deposit. Okay, what does that do for Alan? It locks down a contract that he can then find a fix and flipper and assign it to them for a fee. He usually does anywhere from 20 to 40,000. In this one, he did about 40. Well, Alan set up an ESA for his daughter, Marla Sanchez, and he said, the reason why I'm doing this is because my daughter's educational expenses cost me about 3 deals to pay for them. So he did the math and said, instead of doing 3 deals to pay for my daughter's education expense, I will do 1 and pay for all of it. And the way that he does it by funding an ESA, putting on the contract Directed Trust Company, FBO Marla Sanchez ESA, paying the earnest money deposit out of the ESA, and then when he does the assignment fee to a non-disqualified party, that entire fee goes back into the ESA. So in one deal, he pays for all of his daughter's expenses. Now, Daniel, what does that mean that takes 3 deals? He has to pay taxes. Okay, so he knows that if he has to do 3 deals outside of the IRA, it's because he's having to pay taxes on every single one in order to cover the full expenses. In this, he only has to do 1 deal. He'd already be doing that deal already, so why not put it in there, pay the $40,000 of tax-free earned income, and pay for those education expenses? Okay, and again, it doesn't have to be just for private education. It can be for things like internet, iPads, computers, books, college, anything that is educationally related. Now, I said internet, right? If your kid isn't using the internet for school, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing, okay? I'm going to answer this question. How about in a cash crunch? Example, needs new roof and the expense exceeds the money available in the Roth. Yeah. 1, make a contribution. Hopefully your contribution for that year can cover that. 2, you can get a loan. They're called non-recourse loans. Okay, there's some rules that have to go into it. Or 3, you might be able to partner with somebody. Okay, So this is where you marry a Roth IRA with another Roth IRA, a Roth IRA with a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA with a non-disqualified person, which I mentioned these are disqualified parties, okay? That doesn't mean you can't partner with them, okay? So your case would be a transaction. But let's say you and your spouse go in on a deal together right at the beginning. You each use your IRAs, or one person uses money out of their pocket and the other person uses their IRA. It's a $100,000 investment. You each put $50,000 in, so you're 50-50 from the beginning. Okay, from the beginning. Any expenses that you incur, you have to maintain 50% ownership. Okay, so that's how it works with disqualified parties. Now let's use yours where it's a cash crunch. Like you said, you have an expense that pops up and you don't have enough money in your IRA. So in this guy's case, this guy was a very educated real estate investor. This is my last example, and then I'll hopefully be able to take some more questions. So this guy was an educated real estate investor. In fact, he had a piece of property that he owned. It was right in the middle of like a district in Houston. I can't remember exactly, but he had a big red door on there. And basically he told everybody, if you have an issue, come knock on the red door. And this lady who came to him had an issue. She was in back taxes. Okay, she was in back taxes about $10,000. She was a hoarder. Okay. John didn't know what the heck to do with it, but he was like, you know what? I have this IRA sitting on the side. I'm going to draw up a contract and I'm going to say, I'll cover your back taxes and I have an option to just pick up your home for that $10,000. Okay. He helped this lady find a new place to live, sent her up to the Pacific Northwest to live with her family, paying rent out there. She signed over the contract, which gave his IRA the option to buy, which he did. He picked up that option. But he had a hoarder house with literally no money in there, cash crunch. What the hell is he going to do? Well, he's in the real estate industry. He already purchased the property with his IRA. So he cannot work with any of these people anymore, right? Because it would become a transaction to work with them. As opposed to investing from the beginning, once his IRA owns it, it becomes a transaction. Okay. Once his IRA is invested, it becomes a transaction. But he has all these other people to work with. So what does he do? He reaches out to his network. He's a contractor, buddy. Okay. They build homes. So he said, listen, I can't help you at all. I got this home. It's going to be worth a bunch of money. I'll split this with you 50-50. So they draw up a contract, a joint partnership, and they say, hey, I'm John, Roth IRA, will give 50% of profits to Daniel in return for construction or tear down and construction of these homes. Okay? And any profits we make will be split 50-50. So in this case, they tore it down, built 2 townhomes, made about $600,000, split it $297,000. So we went from $10,000 with zero money left over, formed a joint partnership, and then made $297,000. Okay, so it's a little scary if you get to that point, but hopefully you can make a contribution. Hopefully you can partner with somebody, or you could always take out what's called a non-recourse loan. And again, it's a little bit more advanced, so I'm not going to get into that here, but those are your options, okay? So before I get to how to set up one of these, let's see. For someone who has a 401k from a previous employer and wants to invest passively as a limited partner in real estate syndications, what are the steps to roll those funds into a self-directed IRA? That's literally the next slide. How do you do it? How do you invest in these things? How do you invest in something like a syndication? It's simple. And actually, you've even done it backwards if you've already found your syndication. Because I say you want to go 1, 2, 3. And the reason for this is because usually people who wait around to find their investment, they go, I got it. I'm ready to go. I finally have my investment. I go, cool. When do you need to fund that investment? And they go, this week. And I say, great, we'll get the next one, but let's set up this account. because opening the account is very simple. You're going to hopefully book a call with me at the end of this. I have a QR code you guys can scan, and you can set up and speak with either myself or one of my account specialists. And you're going to talk with them, and you're going to say, I'm going to invest in this. I have an old 401k. I have an old IRA. I would like to move that over. And they're going to say, great, we'll set it up for you. Traditional, Roth, whatever you want to set up. That will happen within 24 hours. I promise you. Sometimes it'll be the same day. Then you need to fund it. Okay? We can't control banks. It doesn't matter how far we send humans out past the moon. Banks will always be slower than snails. Okay? So to contribute to an IRA, it takes about 5 to 7 business days. To transfer an IRA to an IRA, 5 to 7 business days. To roll over an old 401k, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's if you are very adamant with your old custodian to get these dang funds over to the new custodian. Okay? So this can take a while if you're rolling over. So you need to make sure you get started sooner rather than later, which is why I say fund before you find. Okay? If you have an investment, great. Get this started now. And then once you get that started, you will fill out what's called a direction of investment form. Okay? That will be found inside of your portal. You'll click invest, and then you'll fill out the form that you need. In this case, it would be what's called a PPM. Okay? That's what a syndication is called, is a PPM, private placement memorandum. You would fill out those forms, and you would upload the documents that are given to you from the syndicator. And once you have that, we will cut the check to the syndication. And now we are custodying the asset that the syndicator gives us. And that keeps you tax-free on all of your returns. So, do we have any questions? Here is how to book a call with me or one of my funding specialists. Very simple. We'll get you taken care of. Like I said, it can take 24 hours to get it set up and then 5 to 7 days to get these things moving. Rolling over is 2 to 3 weeks, but we'll get you set up. And it's a very simple process. And once you get the direction of investment form filled out, we'll have that syndicator funded within 24 to 48 hours. We move very quickly on our end. And once we do one of these syndications with you, the future ones are very simple, especially if you're working with the same person. Oh no, we have one dropping. Anybody have any questions?
No, thank you. Did you address Brian's question? He had to step away about the cash crunch.
That's one with a new roof. That was the partnership.
Oh, okay, got it.
3 ways of funding an IRA to cover those things. It's contributing, taking a loan, or partnering.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Any other questions? This is great. This is phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I try and keep it around like 45 minutes just so that I can make sure I have some time for questions.
Got it.
So if you guys have them, let them fly. I just showed you something that a majority of the population has never heard of before in their lives. You gotta have some questions.
Yeah, I always have individuals that have money in an old 401k, and it's pretty common for me. So I work with a couple of vendors. We'll love to kind of work with you guys a little bit more. So that's why I was asking that question in regards to like if I have a money, if the person has a money old 401k, the steps, and you've made it very clear on the previous slide. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very simple. Those old 401ks take a little while to move over, but once you have a move over, I mean, it takes, especially for people who are syndicators, it takes one deal. You have all the documents in line, and you could even sometimes work with us beforehand and get your documents lined up. And that first investment, it's very smooth. But every syndicator, for some reason, changes language. I don't know why. It all means the same thing. We're all talking the same, but they always want to be like clever. I don't know. And so we have to match our language with theirs. So always the first one can be a little bit of extra time, but not much. We usually try and work closely with the syndicator.
Got it, got it. The reason why I was asking the question regarding the RIA was Brian. He's an investment advisor, so that's why I was asking that
Oh
question.
no, I didn't mean to bash you, Brian. I
It's okay. He had to step. He had to step out anyway. He was just very last minute. So I could see it being like you said a value add like to the clientele.
Yep.
But yeah, but you're right. They get paid on the managed assets and all that. And yeah,
Yeah. It
almost
usually has to be under a Fidelity or
yeah.
Schwab or one of those big guys under their umbrella.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
And if they won't take the asset, they don't want it. Actually, just a fun little fact on the side is I actually have clients who come over to me from Fidelity, specifically Fidelity. I don't know about the rest of them, but I've had two now. They're very, very high net worth clients, and Fidelity will allow them to do certain alternative investing. I've only seen private money notes.
Mhm.
And even with those clients, they have stipulations saying we can kick this asset whenever we would like. And those clients come over to us, and their financial advisors usually are talking to me, and they're like, how do I get this money back over to my account? So they set up quarterly transfers. So the interest comes in monthly. They set up quarterly transfers so that they can keep that under their umbrella and make money on the management fees.
Got it. And if it's not a syndication, if it's a regular deal, almost like it's like the first slide, right? In regards to that, like some deals are just like a fix and flip, right? As opposed to a syndication, it almost works the same, except that it's not a PPM and 5-year hold. It's just that it's
It, exactly. Yep. You're just filling out a different direction of investment form. And that form, in that case, a buy and hold would be just purchasing real estate. Very simple.
right. Exactly. Okay. Okay. And
All
then
right. Anything else? I don't see anything else. I
no,
must
no.
have
My only last
made an
question
assumption.
is, yeah, my only last question is if it is yeah, like you said, like if you direct the money and it's specific for a deal as opposed to syndication, I guess that's more maybe it's not addressed to you guys. I guess it's more between the investor and then the LP and the GP, right? Essentially like the promissory note and and being on the deed and all that, that's between the investor and the GP and the LP, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. It makes sense. Yeah, just put it out there.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Cool. All right. I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that finally I know it's been a couple of weeks in the making, and I'm so happy that we were able to make this happen.
Me too. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming on, and I'll share the recording, whenever it gets done, and that's it. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thanks. Bye. Take care.